Welcome to Texas Teacher Evaluation and Support System, or T-TESS, Orientation for the 2026-2027 school year. Today, we will break down what the evaluation cycle looks like, how the rubric works, and how this process serves as a tool for continuous growth and support. Let's look at what we want to accomplish today. Our goals are threefold. First, we want you to become fully familiar with the overall T-TESS process. It's a conceptual framework. We want to understand how the domains, dimensions, descriptors, and performance levels directly apply to your day-to-day classroom responsibilities. Finally, remember that T-TESS is anchored in educational best practices. It is designed as an ongoing system of feedback and professional support, not a gotcha system.
Everything in T-TESS is rooted in law. Specifically, Texas Administrative Code Section 149.1001. The purpose of these teacher standards is clear. They are performance.
Let's talk logistics. What actually constitutes a full appraisal cycle under T-TESS? First, it begins with your goal setting and professional development plan. For the official observation, it must be preceded by a pre-conference. The observation itself must be a minimum of 45 minutes, though rules allow it to be conducted in shorter increments, depending on the context of the class. Note that there are no state requirements regarding announced versus unannounced observations. You will also see ongoing walkthroughs by administration throughout the year. Following your observation, a post-conference must take place within 10 business days. The cycle wraps up at the end of the year with an end-of-year EOY conference as your final collaborative meeting. Here is the bird's-eye view of the T-TESS rubric framework, which includes 4 primary domains. Domain 1 is planning, or lesson internalization. This evaluates standards and alignment, data and assessment, knowledge of students, and activities and resources. Domain 2 is instruction, which covers achieving expectations, content knowledge and expertise, communication, differentiation, and monitor and adjust. Domain 3 is learning environment, assessing classroom environment and routines, managing student behavior, and classroom culture. Domain 4 covers professional practices and responsibilities, demeanor and ethics, goal setting, PD, and school and community involvement. Let's take a look at how a single dimension is formatted in the rubric. This is Dimension 2.3, Communication. Notice the shift across performance levels. On the far right, you have Improvement Needed and Developing, which feature heavily teacher-centered actions. For example, under Developing, a teacher leads a lesson with some opportunity for dialogue. As you move left to Proficient, which is the rock-solid expected baseline for a Texas educator, communication supports deeper learning. When you move past Proficient into Accomplished and Distinguished, the actions shift to being completely student-centered. Distinguished teachers don't just ask good questions, they skillfully provoke and guide discussion to inspire student-led learning. Don't get overwhelmed by a T-TESS Dimensions text. The state builds a path to growth by changing 3 elements across performance levels: key concepts, verbs, and qualifiers. 1. Key concepts, the unchanging pillars of a dimension. In Dimension 2.4, the pillars are adapting lessons, monitoring engagement, and addressing confusion. 2. Verbs. Who drives the action? In Developing, actions are teacher-driven. In Accomplished Distinguished, actions become student-led. Shift the heavy lifting to students. 3. Qualifiers. The scale and frequency. Are you adapting for some, most, or all student needs? Is impact occasional or consistent? Remember, Proficient is excellent. To grow, change the verbs and qualifiers. The core of the observation phase follows a simple cycle we call POP: pre-conference, observation, post-conference. Think of this as a continuous loop. These 3 components are deeply interconnected to ensure that an observation isn't a surprise event, but a well-documented reflection of your teaching practice. Why do we do a pre-conference? First, it gives you, the teacher, the floor. It is your opportunity to voice your thought process behind how you developed the lesson plan and share critical student context with your appraiser before they step into the room. It also serves to clarify mutual expectations for both teacher and student performance. Finally, it gives the appraiser an inside scoop on context or background criteria that might not be instantly visible or obvious just by watching the lesson live.
What is the appraiser actually doing while in your classroom? They are capturing unbiased notes. They are scribing a script of the classroom realities, exactly what the teacher says and does, and exactly what the students say and do. They will also record time segments to track lesson pacing and copy down specific wording from any visuals, slides, or anchor charts used during the instruction. When you meet for your post-conference, the conversation follows this explicit four-step structure. Introduction, a general greeting, a quick review of the conference process, and a chance for you to share your general impression of how the lesson went. Reinforcement. This is a celebration of what went well. Your appraiser will identify a specific dimension of strength, ask self-analysis questions, and share the positive evidence collected. Refinement. This is our growth area. We will isolate a dimension to polish, walk through self-analysis questions, look at the evidence, and collaborate on professional recommendations. Review ratings. Finally, we look at the rubric holistically and review the evidence supporting your overall dimension ratings. To reinforce our mantra, evidence collection is a continuous process, not a single event. Evidence is gathered prior to the lesson through the pre-conference and a thorough review of your lesson or unit plans. Evidence is gathered during the lesson by scripting the words and actions of both you and your students. And evidence is gathered after the lesson through follow-up communication between the actual observation and the formal post-conference. Here is an incredibly important distinction regarding Domain 4, Professional Practices and Responsibilities. Unlike Domains 1 through 3, Domain 4 is not scored in summative form by your evaluator after your lesson observation. Instead, it remains open because you actively contribute to this evidence throughout the year. It isn't officially scored until after you've had a full opportunity to present your professional evidence during the end-of-year conference. Let's break down the 4 dimensions of Domain 4 so you know what evidence to track. First is Dimension 4.1, Professional Demeanor and Ethics. This simply states that the teacher meets district expectations for attendance, professional appearance, decorum, and procedural, ethical, legal, and statutory responsibilities. Your evidence for this accumulates all year long. It includes your adherence to the Code of Ethics for Texas educators, solid attendance, professional conduct in ARDs, 504s, PLCs, and staff meetings, and your daily efforts to advocate for your students. Dimension 4.2 focuses on goal setting, meaning the teacher consistently reflects on his or her own practice. The concrete evidence you'll bring to the table includes your official educator goal setting and professional development plan. Appraisers also look for proof of active, meaningful participation in pre- and post-conferences, your ability to implement feedback into your lessons quickly, and tangible evidence of your personal professional growth over the months. Dimension 4.3 highlights professional development, emphasizing how a teacher enhances the professional learning community as a whole. To show evidence here, look to your professional development planning forms or certificates from growth activities. We also want to see how you contribute to PD efforts at the campus or district level, and how you work to foster growth among your peers by collaborating and sharing resources. The final piece of Domain 4 is Dimension 4.4, School and Community Involvement. This looks at your leadership with students, colleagues, and community members through proactive outreach and communication. Great examples of evidence include building partnerships with local community organizations, being an active, productive contributor to your campus PLCs and grade-level teams, and maintaining visibility at campus activities or during class transitions. As the school year winds down, we will sit down for our final collaborative meeting, the end-of-year conference. During this meeting, we will accomplish 4 main things. First, we'll review the finalized observation data for Domains 1, 2, and 3. Second, we'll look at teacher and student impact data. Third, this is your time to shine with Domain 4. We will look at your collected evidence, see how you attained your goals, and review your follow-through from your initial professional development plan. Finally, we look forward, discussing new goals and PD actions for the upcoming school year. We house all of our T-TESS documentation digitally through Eduphoria Strive. Please scan the QR code on the screen to log in to Strive for Teachers. Your very first action item after today's session is to log in and update your teacher profile to ensure you are mapped to the correct campus and appraiser. GISD T-TESS timeline and this presentation can be found under Evaluations/T-TESS on the GISD HR website. Your campus administrator will share T-TESS information with you also.
The Teach for Texas portal is an excellent resource for deeper understanding of T-TESS. Teachers and appraisers are encouraged to visit the portal to build individual and collective capacity with the system. As we wrap up our orientation today, let's revisit our core goals. I hope you now feel much more familiar with the T-TESS process. More importantly, as you look at your classroom planning, I encourage you to keep thinking conceptually about how these domains and performance levels live within your daily classroom routines. Remember that T-TESS is structurally built around continuous feedback and professional support to help you succeed. Thank you for your time, and let's have an incredible school year.